which feature months of filming in Hungary and Italy, actors performing elaborate real stunts over rampaging bulls and dozens of extras fighting in the marshes of Danube River, and not think this has been comically expensive. Certainly more than just filming another YouTube show with Ben Shapiro would have been. And that is where we are. Too much overhead, not enough output, can't outcompete with the moving market, and now their franchise is crumbling in front of our eyes.
How long was it after you left the Daily Wire that...
Adult friendships were really hard.
When you left, your maid of honor...
What does this next chapter look like?
Do you want to say anything to her? What was the final straw? I mean, almost nobody would give that up.
Yeah.
And start from scratch. And that's why I respect you so much.
Mm-hmm. No, it was terrifying. I had to, Alex and I had a conversation. This was not this is a lot of thinking and praying and analyzing. And
if I was in charge of the Daily Wire, I would have never let her go, dude. Are you kidding me? Remember how much I kept saying, even though her initial, fake, I'm actually authentically in my bedroom act was lame as hell. Obviously, I very quickly recognized that she was capturing the attention, especially by weaving in conservative attitudes into, cultural criticisms. Like, she was doing pop culture lifestyle shit. She was younger, more vibrant, and also able to not make annoying, bland, conservative propaganda the centerpiece of her commentary. That's why she succeeded, and that's why she's still succeeding.
We looked at each other and we're just kind of like, are you willing to, are we basically willing to lose everything and start from scratch? Because again, we had, Alex had just started his own business. We had bought this farm that was it was a stretch, but we really wanted it. And I was like, I could leave and it could backfire on me immediately. Nobody could care. Maybe I wouldn't make any money. Maybe I would have no anything. And I basically just had to decide, does that matter to me? And it didn't.
And it worked.
Yeah. But it wasn't because I was yeah.
1 million subs in 1 month when you launched your new show.
Yeah. It was very humbling and gratifying. I was like, okay. But it's terrifying. And I literally, our conversation was are we willing? My mom had just decided to move to Nashville. I was like, are we willing to go move back in with her and literally start over? If you're funding our life now, Alex, and I can't help it all and I'm making no money, if all of it went away. And at the end of the day, I don't really care about being famous. It comes with what I do, but I would be just as happy if I was telling stories in a different capacity. Mm-hmm. Again, it's finding the root of what you love to do and then applying it. I don't need this to survive. I don't crave it. I do it because I love sharing stories with people. I love hopefully making them think differently about the world. I love making people feel like they're not alone in whatever they're going through, whether that's on my subscription platform where we do.
Bro, this is literally verbatim, bar for bar, what I say, except for, bass boosted on the right-wing side. She's talked about rebranding herself as a pop culture commentator to reach a more ideologically varied audience. Her first video with her YouTube rebrand was on Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Exactly. I'm not even kidding. This is low key. I have these interests myself, right? These are organic interests that I have, and I certainly lean into them. And in the process, I want to make sure that people have a semblance of charitability towards the things that I talk about from the perspective that I talk about, so that they see the world in a different way. Okay? Are you not a clout goblin? See, that's what I mean. This is the stupid, the stupid method of this is, oh, he's just a clout goblin. The difference here is that there is a project here. There's an ideological project here. And I think a lot of people get it and some people don't. So they just have like a stupid perspective on it and they go, you're a clout goblin. Yeah, sure. Okay. The question I have for you is that if all I cared about was clout, why the fuck would I talk about Israel all the goddamn time? Are you stupid? Like, especially in the way that I talk about it, where I also don't even entertain a second of anti-Semitic commentary on the subject matter. If I wanted clout and I had an anti-Israel position, you bet your fucking ass if all I gave a shit about was clout and not like presenting my vision for the world, I would be anti-Semitic as fuck. Look at all the top anti-Israel commentators that get so much motion on the matter. It is quite literally uninterrupted, full-blown, the Jews are responsible for it. Either I would never mention Israel or never mention any politics whatsoever and just simply talk about like, you know, other shit, have fun, you know, and do like silly content. Or if I were to do politics, I would just be right-wing. That's it. Like, there is no reason. I was literally about to compare the way you two explain your passions in a very similar fashion. Yes, I think what she's saying here is really interesting because I even suspect that she might be cribbing my shit a little bit because this is what I have said in interviews down to, this is what I have said in interviews down to like the verbiage that she's using. And we already know that they were jacking my shit at the Daily Wire when she first started. So, you know, you're so brave. I didn't say it because I'm fucking brave. I'm not, okay? I don't know why you guys have this like incredibly antagonistic relationship with anything I say. Like, no, I'm so brave, dude. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant. I said, me. I'm brave. That's not my point at all. Isn't she a far-right grifter? Why are we relating and watching this trash? No, I'm saying that like this is a person who wanted to make a media career for themselves, and I think that they found a venue in right-wing commentary, but they are also very aware of other content creators in the space and have been able to pick up on like whatever is successful in that. I've been trying to do this. But obviously, as a leftist and right-wing commentators are dominating these spaces, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Watched Adolescents in the studio this morning. Both were amazing. Thanks for recommending them. Yeah. Especially in like female-centered spaces too, as Taylor Lorenz reported on, there's a lot. Like there's a lot of pop culture commentary that is like expressly right-wing. It's really interesting. It's not just the male-dominated space on the independent side of online news and online commentary that's like super right-wing, where your expectation from a fitness content creator is that they're going to say some suspicious shit. I think even like T channels and drama channels also participate in this, and they have like a predominantly female audience. I got sana tavuk aldım bir de yine köfte. Yeah.
Do our Dear Brett series, and I'm able to talk to people. Like I had a girl last week, you know, talk to me about, you know, she has a grandfather with dementia who is, you know, forgetting who she is and has gotten violent and is like, how do you?
Okay, I'm going to skip the rest.
Reagan, is that her name? Took over the comments section. How did that feel?
Friendships are hard.
Are you guys still friends?
I don't say so.
Would you like to still be friends?
Of course.
Also, she's not super pro-Israel, it seems. Oh, Brett liked this post from Candace? Yeah, of course. Dude, you can't be in that age group and just like express a super pro-Israel sentiment. You're literally just like whittling away your audience. That's it. There's a market for it, but that market is in like mostly liberal spaces. You can be pro-Israel. You can be overtly pro-Israel, but you're not going to get a lot of motion from the right. You're not even going to get a lot of motion from the left. There's like for a younger audience especially, being pro-Israel and overtly pro-Israel is immediately like, oh, you must be a grifter. Even fucking being anti-Israel and then being against anti-Semitism for many people, especially in younger audiences, tracks as inauthentic. It's really interesting. Like if you're anti-Zionist, if you're like a dedicated anti-Zionist for fucking decades, like someone like myself who's been doing this for 10 fucking years, but you're also combative against anti-Semitism in general, younger audiences look at that and go, you're fake, dude. You're fucking phony. Authenticity is tracked by being incredibly right-wing. That's what it is. It's just, especially online, people go, oh, these people are demonstrating their vices, and that means they're being authentic. Yeah, the anti-Semitic side of the right is winning the war on the right, for sure. Absolutely. Not trying to glaze, but I will say your commentary has had a super significant influence on me and the people in my life. My super right-wing father, my family's Jewish, but he is not, recently told me he now supports Palestinian emancipation after I brought up some points from you, Noah, and my own research. Thanks for all you do. Free Palestine. Yeah. There's no metric for there's no metric for authenticity if you are empathetic. If you're empathetic, that means you're not fucking real. You know what I mean? You're fake. You're phony. No one is really empathetic. You're fucking making that shit up. And I think it's because a lot of people only duke it out online, if that makes sense. Like if all of your experiences are shaped by, if all of your interpersonal relationships and all your experiences are shaped by online back and forth, then yeah, that's very different than how you would operate in the real world. And therefore, because that's most of our social development now, especially in the post-COVID world, unfortunately, people think like being an empathetic human being and caring for others is fake. You're virtue signaling. Whereas vice signaling, on the other hand, is a true metric for authenticity. That's it. Being a bad person, like openly being a bad person, unironically is seen as a unironically seen as like being a real one, you know? And that's why there's people that like aren't even all that invested in being a right-wing ideologue that can simply present themselves as such, as Mingold, okay? And of course, their output is all that matters if they're a content creator, as I've said time and time again, and are able to embrace larger and larger audiences as a consequence of that by vice signaling, by saying what is expected of them, by giving the audience exactly what they demand. And there are moments of honesty, okay? There are moments of honesty in that process where, like, Asman will sometimes be like, yeah, I don't care about this. I'm just saying it, you know? Or, yeah, I'm saying it because it's popular. What are you going to do about it? And it's, that's what it is. That's that straight up. Like, Trump kind of tapped into this too. Trump tapped into this. He is honestly dishonest. Okay? He is honestly dishonest. And people see that as like a measure of authenticity that is virtually impossible for anyone on the left to capture, especially if your values are motivated by being empathetic to others. You know? Why do you think being against Israel's actions is conflated, but being anti-Semitic by so many people after all the info that is just, no, because it's a defense mechanism, and Israel's development as a Zionist, a settler colonial project literally relies on the constant fears that if Israel doesn't exist as an ethno-religious supremacist state, then like all Jews will be killed and murdered and Holocaust will happen everywhere. Yeah. And that intentional conflation has caused people to obviously learn the wrong lesson there. They look at Israel and perhaps for the past couple of decades until this last decade, people looked at Israel as a positive state. People associated Israel with positive values, right? With the endless faucet of pro-Israel propaganda coming from mainstream news, while never really seeing what Israel was truly doing to the Palestinian population, most people were like, yeah, Israel's good. And if you hate Israel, you're anti-Semitic. That makes sense to me. But now that people are understanding that Israel is not good at all, okay, and indefensible, utterly indefensible, and that association is now a negative one. And I have not been able to explain this to a lot of people that are not anti-Semitic but are super pro-Israel. They just don't understand that at all. They like, it doesn't track. There's too much social conditioning and too much time that they've invested into believing that like this is a good conflation and not a negative one. And it's interesting. I know that it is not a positive conflation, and it's downright dangerous for the existence of Jews in the Western world, because my name is Hasan, and I've lived in this country post 9/11. And if that conflation of like, for example, Islam and ISIS wasn't such a dangerous weapon, then the American media would not have lied and manufactured consent and implied that those two things are intertwined with one another over and over again in an effort to justify the war on terror. That's why I constantly make this comparison about Israel and ISIS, where it feels to me like, people fucking run around and say, it always feels like, pro-Israel people who are not anti-Semitic are running around making that association themselves for some reason without seeing how dangerous that outcome is, how devastating that outcome is for the overall safety of Jews in this country that might not want anything to do with Israel, as a matter of fact. Especially with this current government heavily leaning into that, because there's a lot of institutional allowance using anti-Semitism as a weapon to wield against the First Amendment, against due process. Like, a lot of people, I think, don't understand that this is simply the entry point for this administration to enact a very scary agenda, to make it so that any criticism of Trump inevitably will be prosecuted with the full extent of the law. You'll be a terrorist. But the entry point into it is through anti-Semitism, through claiming that you give a shit about anti-Semitism, and liberals have allowed this administration to continue doing so. They've allowed it. You see it. There's too much time and too much money that was expended by pro-Israel groups that center themselves around like Jewish advocacy groups, even though they're not. They're just Israel advocacy groups. And they have virtually invaded a lot of think tanks and colleges and whatnot to create this idea that like, yeah, this conflation is real. Israel is for the Jews and Jews are for Israel. And if you criticize Israel, you hate the Jews. There's like, think about it. There are I can't think of a single other instance where like shitting on Christians in a country that is like bouldering towards Christian nationalism right now, shitting on Christians in this regard does not get you this same level of punishment. Okay? Shitting on no other marginalized group will ever get you this level of punishment. As a matter of fact, it will get you promoted, really. Right? Yet. You're right. Yet. Do you have a single fact to back that up? Which part? Do you think that like white supremacist anti-black sentiment is something that will cook you up in this country? All the parts. What do you want me to source? I can source anything you want me to source. In terms of the money spent from Zionist groups like pro-Israel groups, I mean, that much is. I mean, look at AIPAC as a starting point. But yeah. in terms of the administration using anti-Semitism as a weapon to crack open and set very dangerous precedents against free speech, look at the ongoing legal battles that are taking place with Mahmoud Khalil, with the Turkish PhD student, with the Korean American who was almost deported but was stopped because they just couldn't find her. Yeah. This is a militant Zionist group threatening activists online with a deport list. A century-old Zionist group has resurfaced in the U.S. with a list of pro-Palestinian activists it wants arrested. Now, the funny part about this is that Beitar and ADL and all these other pro-Israel groups like Stop Anti-Semitism and whatnot were previously seen as like crackpots, not ADL, but Beitar and all these other ones. And now they're receiving a warm welcome. Now, let me tell you something. This is not a secret. This is not a secret at all. This is being done in broad daylight. If you pay close attention to some of the immigration enforcement stuff, you will recognize it, that is precisely what they're doing, right? They're already trying to create a chilling effect on speech by threatening, using the arm of the law, and threatening students that have engaged in activism. They're lying about them. And in some instances, they're not even lying about them. They're just simply saying like, yeah, we don't like what you're saying. Okay? Here is the IHRA. Here's the person who created the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, saying weaponizing anti-Semitism makes students less safe. None of this, of course, matters because it's not about anti-Semitism. It's not about combating anti-Semitism at all. If you think that, you're fucking delusional. It has always been about silencing anti-Israel protests and then using that new expanded, that new precedent that you set against the First Amendment and expanding on that by declaring anything and everything a terrorist. It was never about keeping students safe. Of course not. What do you mean? Military presence on campuses do not keep students safe. Destroying free speech on college campuses does not make students safe. It's the exact opposite. But the thing I wanted to show you in terms of like facts on the matter, because it sounds like this scary conspiracy, it almost even sounds like an anti-Semitic conspiracy, right? Like, oh, Jews control the media, blah, blah, blah. Is that what you're saying? That's not what I'm saying at all. Here is Izzy Breen, who himself is Jewish. Not that it matters, but expanding on this, something that I've talked about a lot. Project Esther, a national strategy to combat anti-Semitism. Izzy says the biggest reason the government officials aren't giving any specifics about the criteria by which these arrests and deportations are selected is that the criteria is pro-Israel think tanks and advocacy organizations created lists of troublesome individuals and gave them to us. They're not hiding it. Beitar is one of these militant Zionist organizations, ultra-Zionist organizations that are insane. They're rabid. They're psychopathic. The fact that they are able to operate as a 501c3 on U.S. soil is insane. This sounds like an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, but not only is it real, the people who created these lists were super proud of it and put on papers on how to do it. This is a PDF from the Heritage Organization Foundation website, the Heritage Foundation website. Project Esther, a national strategy to combat anti-Semitism, National Task Force to combat anti-Semitism. This paired up nicely with Project 2025. This is something that I covered, something that I talked about when they revealed this. Okay, the Torah in the book of Esther, Megillah Esther, tells us that in the mid-4th century BCE, a threat